Serious, solicitor/lawyers, what's the worst case if you should have mentioned this sooner you've experienced? One more for you. My first ever hearing in front of a judge as an attorney was a Social Security disability appeal. My client had been crushed at work a few years ago and his entire left side of his body was mangled. He had PTSD from seeing his dad shoot himself as a kid, loads of mental health issues and physical ones as well. Just my luck, I get the biggest dickhead judge the SA has to offer. It's sort of an unspoken rule that you don't interrupt someone's opening statement. You don't make objections, you don't interrupt. Well, I get 3 sentences into my opening and I was listing his conditions, and the judge screams over me, "You forgot one, what about the drug abuse disorder? When was the last time your client did heroin?" I froze for a half a second, glared at said client and said, "Well, Your Honor, I didn't mention that, similar to how I didn't mention his pre-diabetes and seasonal allergies. It isn't relevant to his ability to work as he hasn't abused drugs in several years. Additionally, he admitted that he used drugs to cope with his mental health disorders, which he has taken much better control over since he began counseling." I was damn proud of that response. My client won the case. I called to tell him. His GF answered and informed me he was in jail for the next 36 months for stealing a car. Ha 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 ha, a roller coaster from start to finish. Well, not for heroin. It's a win in my book. A person involved in a motorcycle accident, who sustained legitimate but not serious injuries, CCTV showed the incident. They were very much not at fault. They decided this was their big payday, claimed they could barely walk, had PTSD, serious back trouble, would never work again, the whole 9 yards. They neglected to tell their lawyer they had been, I, working a manual labor job, 2, riding motorcycles again, 3, did a bungee jump. All of which we caught on video they documented via social media. They did not get the multi-million-pound settlement payment they expected and were pursued for fraud. It was a fun phone call after we sent the tape full of evidence. FFS, how hard can it be to lay low for a few months and collect? Duck, people are dumb. I remember a similar thread a few months ago where too many lawyers talked about people winning big settlements with NDA clauses, go post how much money they made on Facebook, and then lose it all because they violated the agreement. Apparently asking people to just sit on big news is way too much of an ask. Learned while my client was on the stand that she had a little bit of a drug problem. She disclosed immediately after that she was going to fail the drug test the judge ordered because she had been a daily meth user for years. She was stunningly gorgeous, had held the same job for over 25 years, and was a rock star mom to a kid with special needs. Unlike 90% of my clients, she was always on time, responsive, and did everything I asked. To date, the only high-functioning meth user I've met. But duck, that hearing would have gone quite differently had she mentioned that to me beforehand. FYI, most of the time we can deal with bad facts. At the very least we can give you the advice you need to hear. But there isn't much I can do with surprise facts in the middle of a trial. I was representing a man that was accused of sexually assaulting the young daughter of his girlfriend, who was married to another man. The key issue was whether or not my client's DNA profile should have been at the scene. Only skin cell tissue had been recovered, not seminal bodily fluid DNA, and it was not an exact match, but rather a match to a profile that included him. A few weeks before trial he finally told me that the woman's other son was likely his. They had been having an affair for more than 5 years. The fact that the boy shared his DNA was a pivotal reason that the DNA profile would have been present. Edit, grammar. A big issue was a language barrier as my client did not speak English and we used an interpreter for all of our communications. So what happened next? It ended in a hung jury and the prosecution refused to refile charges. When speaking with the jury afterwards, they admitted they didn't fully understand the DNA situation. When the judge explained it to them, they said they would have acquitted had they better understood. The jury can't ask for help or clarification when deliberating? From what I've read about jury duty itself, few jurors who get selected even understand the process of jury duty, much less deliberating cases. I feel like there should be a qualifications exam prior to listing citizens for jury selection. Problem is, people would probably fail the exams on purpose to get out of jury duty. And the people who would make the best jurors would be the best at doing that. I remember some comedians saying something to the effect that juries are made up of people so dumb they couldn't figure out how to get out of jury duty. Client comes to me, with his new wife, complaining that has been sued by his ex-wife for failing to pay a $5,000 judgment to the ex as part of the divorce decree. Judge orders us to mediation. During mediation, ex-wife budges that she wants the full $5,000. Client claims he doesn't have the ability to pay it. New wife, in an effort to get her loving husband free from the clutches of his evil ex, offers to give up her large diamond wedding ring to the evil ex. Ex can keep it, sell it, whatever, but client had previously told new wife it was worth more than $5,000, so it should be enough. Ex-wife agrees to accept new wife's ring, subject to an appraisal. Maybe you can see where this is going. Get a call 2 weeks later from opposing counsel, deal is off. Why? I asked. Turns out the ring was a CZ, worth about $95. When client met with me and I showed him the appraisal, he said, "Yeah, I knew that was going to happen." I stared at him slack-jawed and said, "You knew?" "Oh yeah, but what was I supposed to do? Tell my wife I got her a fake ring?" "How about telling her, no my love, I gave you that ring, and it is a symbol of my love for you, and that horrible bitch will get it over my dead body. He'll find another way to pay her," I said. He looked at me and says, "Yeah, that would probably have worked." This is the best one. My client was badly hurt in a car accident and promised me he was never hurt in one before. He was actually hurt in 44 prior accidents, all of which he filed claims for, which is how I found out when the mediator showed me the defense's ISO report. The duckin' look on my client's face, Lamau. I guarantee if he had 44 prior accidents, he knew damn well what an ISO was. ISO is a record of your prior insured accidents. There may be some tiny insurance companies that don't report claims to ISO, but checking ISO is routine for virtually everyone. Oh, I'm certain he did, but he was a dumb guy. Had a guy with a DUI. Asked about any criminal history, he said no. So I started the paperwork for ARD for him. It's a first-time offense program that seals the record and drops the charges once completed. Get to the courthouse, talk to the find out the guy had another DUI a year prior. Also was on probation from the first one still. His excuse for not telling me was the first DUI was made up and he wasn't intoxicated, but pled guilty anyway. Unfortunately, I ended up representing him for both bases, did not get paid nearly enough for the shit I went through, but I did manage to keep him out of jail so he could take care of his elderly mother. Made him give up his vehicles though. Considering your stories, you can have your own sub where you can post amusing stories almost every week. People are seriously airheaded. I'd have enough to fill it weekly, but monthly probably. Don't lie to your lawyer. It's not going to work out. I had a client on a family matter. We were in court and I was going on about how being a father was the most important thing in the world to him, and his ex pipes up and says, well, he never sees his other children. I'm sorry, other children? That being said, many clients leave out embarrassing things until they get called out on them. Please tell your lawyers all the facts. We've literally heard everything and really don't care. Just let me prepare to explain that your weekend habits of cocaine and sex dungeons doesn't affect your ability to parent. I created a questionnaire after my client brought a change of custody case for abuse against her ex, and he brings up her locking the children in a pitch black attic as punishment for hours. How do you discipline your children? Jesus WTF, that's straight up torture. Spent several hours zealously arguing that my client was severely disabled and couldn't work due to a back injury. It was so bad that the poor dude couldn't even sit in a chair throughout the entire proceedings. Rest my case. Opposing counsel calls in a DEC representative who proceeds to produce record after record of my client's deer hunting activities. He sat in a tree, in freezing weather, for many hours, shot and killed multiple deer, and transported their carcasses out of the woods all on his own. SMH. What an idiot, all he had to do was lay low. My favorite, the plaintiff on the other side, so no attorney-client privilege issues here, was in court telling the judge that each of my clients, on separate occasions, raped and impregnated her without her consent. This was already highly improbable because one of my clients was biologically female and couldn't have impregnated her. Then, in court, in front of the judge, this plaintiff abruptly mentions that she's never met my clients. Easiest win I ever got. This was already highly improbable because one of my clients was biologically female, highly improbable. The lawyer talk is strong with this one. As a solicitor, one of the most annoying things I've had happen was, after an hour-long consultation with an older couple about changing the husband's will, the wife hands me a letter from his doctor which says the husband has dementia and does not have capacity to sign medical documents. Like, you didn't think that was a good place to start? Maybe he had a letter for her, but forgot to give it to you.